Students, I wanted to record this screencast, talking about the antebellum time period before the Civil War. So ante, before, bellum means war. So I want to talk about an individual who was named John Brown. So picking up what we talked about with Nat Turner's Rebellion, John Brown was a leading abolitionist, committed to ending slavery by any means necessary. He grew up majority of his life in upstate New York. Pretty much failed at everything, but also from the farming, any businesses he did. But he was dedicated to ending slavery. So we're expanding on our idea, this idea of is violence ever justified to end an unjust law? So you're looking at a famous mural. It says "Tragic to Prelude." Prelude to Tragedy. So the main person you see there, that is supposed to be John Brown. He sort of looks like sort of Poseidon kind of person. He's holding a rifle in his one arm, and sort of a Bible in the other. And he's sort of like he's willing to end slavery. So when you're looking at from the front, you see the left-hand side, you see the American flag, you see an African American or former slave ready to fight. Versus you see the Confederacy flag on the right. You see a tornado that's supposed to symbolize the coming of a civil war. This is supposed to represent Kansas. Kansas had the opportunity or the decision to decide the issue themselves, the issue of slavery. Would Kansas be a slave state versus a free state? And so you had pro-slavery people and anti-slavery people rush to Kansas. On the two soldiers here, you see a Union soldier and a Confederate soldier on the right in sort of whitish gray, sort of hinting or sort of what is to come this Civil War, the issue of slavery finally deciding. So again, he's sort of this controversial figure. Some people call him a saint. Some people call him a fanatic. Some people call him a murderer. He led in Kansas, he killed some pro-slavery individuals in Kansas. Then he went on to lead a slave uprising in Virginia, which is modern-day West Virginia, Harper's Ferry, Virginia. Some people call the beginning of the Civil War. And we're going to find out a little bit about who this John Brown was. So in 1854, Congress passes what's called the Kansas-Nebraska Act. And so what this did, it allowed Kansas and Nebraska to decide the issue of slavery themselves. So this was things called popular sovereignty. Before Kansas or Nebraska could become a state, they decide the issue of slavery themselves. So people vote on it for slavery or not slavery, and that decides if they are a free state or slave state. So you'd have many Northerners would flood the state, and many Southerners would flood the state to decide the issue. Pretty much it satisfied no one. It led to violence in places like Kansas, which gets the nickname Bleeding Kansas because of the violence. It just shows how divided the United States is in 1854 over the issue of slavery. So the sort of tipping point, or it just shows how bad things were in terms of Northerners and Southerners not getting along. So there is a U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, Charles Sumner, stood up on the floor of the Senate in the late 1850s, I believe 1857, and he spoke out against slavery. And he was beaten, pretty much close to dying, by a gentleman called Preston Brooks from South Carolina, even to this point where his walking stick was pretty much smashed into pieces. Charles Sumner, many years did not return to the Senate floor because he was so badly injured. Just showed how bad, even government people are not getting along. So we can talk about Republicans and Democrats not getting along today. 1857, they were not getting along because both sides are leading towards a civil war. So we're gonna, obviously, if you were watching this is a great time. You can pause to the person next to you. How do you think John Brown felt about the Kansas-Nebraska Act? Given what you know so far, how might he have responded? So again, letting people decide the issue of slavery. Obviously, he would have a certain opinion about that based on being anti-slavery. So this is a good time to stop, maybe pause, talk to the person next to you. So why is it called Bleeding Kansas? It's called Bleeding Kansas. So Missouri. So we have the what's called the Missouri Compromise, and so Missouri came in as a slave state, and Maine came in as a free state, and they established what's called a parallel line. So any line north of the 3430 line would be no slavery. Anything south of that would allow slavery. So people from Missouri started to go into Kansas, and then Northerners would go to Kansas. And so they pretty much fought each other in terms of rushing to Kansas and try to decide the issue of should Kansas be a slave state or a free state. So John Brown, he goes to Kansas, and he, with a group of men, some of his sons as well, and he leads to this place called Potawatomi Creek, and he kills pro-slavery sympathizers and 7 settlers. This became known as the Potawatomi Massacre. Again, this would be an opportunity for the person next to you or your table. Why does it seem that John Brown's ultimate goal so far? How is he trying to achieve that goal? In a moment you're going to watch, this is a great time for you to stop and listen to a video or watch a video on Harper's Ferry. So after Kansas, John Brown was never captured, and he is ready to lead a slave rebellion, just like Nat Turner, but this in the late 1850s. And there is a armory where they keep weapons in Harper's Ferry, Virginia, and he wants to get these weapons and pass them out to enslaved people in the South and leave a massive slave rebellion. So this will be a video where you can get some more information about this. He is eventually captured. He's on trial, and so he sort of is seen as a martyr for Northerners. So you're going to debate with your group. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? So was he wrongfully executed, or did he receive fair punishment? Historian Michael Eric Dyson once noted that American Revolution was founded on breaking the law. So if you would take a moment and discuss with your partner, why do you think Dyson, what did he mean by this? How does this connect to John Brown's action? Is it ever right to break the law for something you consider to be higher, like a higher cause? This is Frederick Douglass was friends with John Brown. They both lived in upstate New York. Even John Brown encouraged Frederick Douglass to join him. Frederick Douglass left the country briefly after John Brown was captured, feeling that he would be implicated. He would be caught up in this. Eventually, Frederick Douglass did not have any involvement, but he said, if I could live for the slave, but he could die for him. So Frederick Douglass felt that John Brown was very powerful. So you can think, did John Brown fail? Did John bring up the war that ended American slavery and made this a free republic? Some people said that the United States was compromising too much, and the actions of John Brown and others, and pushing the United States towards Civil War, deciding the issue of slavery once and for all. Jacob Lawrence, this is an artist in the turn of the 20th century, he does a whole series on migration series. He also does a series on John Brown. So it's kind of a watercolor, and if you click on the link, you will see the various images from, obviously you see a cross here being influenced by Christianity. He's looking at a map, plotting his next sort of revolt or slave insurrections. Definitely he's influenced by weapons, trying to stop the institution of slavery. So that's the end of the PowerPoint, of the screen shot, and I hope this helps you understand the material as you're filling in your Cornell notes.